Alright, everybody. So in this video, I'm going to talk about affirmative action and how these policies by our schools and our governments has only made everybody more racist. Everything has gotten worse since Black Lives Matter. Nothing has gotten better. And I'll give you an example. Let's talk about affirmative action, right? I'm sure you saw the case at Harvard and North Carolina, and this has been going on since probably the beginning of time, right? And it is terrible what it has done. I'll give you an example. Let's say I have a best friend growing up was a black guy, and let's say we did everything together. Playing sports, right? Going to classes, going to parties, and all social events, travel around the world, and we have a really tight bond, right? We're just like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, right? And what happens is, by the time comes when we turn 18, when we apply to go to university, let's say we both excelled academically, right, top of the class and everything. But I worked a little bit harder because, I thought to myself, also because of my culture, maybe my Asian culture, my parents are pushing me. They said that, we want to get into the best university in the world. So I studied my ass off for 18 years. I ended up graduating with a 97% average, right? And let's say my best friend, this black friend, right? He also studied quite hard, but maybe he partied a little bit more social life, a little bit more traveling, maybe a girlfriend, and so he ended up graduating with let's say 87% average, which is good enough to get into over 90% of schools across America, right? Still very good. But what happens is, let's say we both apply to four of the best schools in the country. We each apply to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and Stanford. Both of us. You know what's gonna happen is because when I fill out my application, and there might be an advantage, this is why it's terrible, because we're encouraging society to become gay. What happens is if I check the boxes, I'm gonna be a straight Chinese male, heterosexual Chinese male. So right, I'm not part of the alphabet community, and even with a 97% average, there's an extremely high chance that I get rejected by all four schools, right? My best friend who's black, even though he only has an 87% average, but when he checks his boxes, he's gonna check African American. You know what that happens, right? His chances of getting accepted just jumped by 3, 4, 500%. And what's gonna happen is when we find out our admission results is that I'm gonna receive four rejection letters from all these schools, and he's going to get four acceptance letters with a full 4-year scholarship. What do you think that's gonna happen when we find out about the results? Do you think any of us will be able to celebrate? It's going to be the most awkward moment of our lives, and it's going to completely 100% destroy our friendship. Yeah, and this is what affirmative action has done. It's extremely dangerous. And what's so dangerous about this is that it only hurts the poor Asian community and the poor black community. If LeBron James, as long as his son gets something reasonable, let's say 80 to 85% average in high school, he will be able to send his son to any Ivy League school, right? As long as he gets a decent grade. Even though I know those schools are extremely expensive, but they have a lot of scholarships and bursaries that you can qualify. And the thing is, if your parents have money and you say, I'm going to skip on all the scholarships and everything, I'll just pay the full $100,000 a year tuition, boom, right on the table, right? All this does is that it hurts the poor communities more. And it only causes more division. It only causes more hatred. Nothing good has ever come out of this. And look at what happened, for example, if you really dig into the stats, if you get accepted into Ivy League, right, it's not a walk in the park. You really, really have to earn your degree, right? And a lot of people are struggling. If you look at the people who are on academic probation at Ivy League schools, do you know who's the most likely to be on academic probation? It's the black students. Look at Harvard, Yale, Princeton. It's anywhere between 30 to 40%. You look at the smaller Ivy League schools. Look at Dartmouth. You have Pennsylvania. You look at Columbia, Cornell. Anywhere between 50 to 55% of black students are on academic probation. They want to say it because it's embarrassing. Because the Ivy League is no joke. You really have to commit it academically. And when you reject people with a much higher, merit, who are much better qualified to be there, you reject someone with 98% average, you let someone in with an 88% average, that person is going to struggle. It's plain discrimination, and it doesn't help them. They could have gone, there's so many good schools in the US that they could have went into, and then they could still get a scholarship, and they could play on a varsity sports team. Maybe they would have had extra time, and if they needed money, they could have worked on Saturdays and Sundays at a local restaurant. Maybe they could have a boyfriend or girlfriend, and they could have joined a social club. Their university experience could have been 10 times better. But what this has done is that you're letting in people who are less qualified to get into the system, and they're going to struggle mightily. If you really, really want to fix the problem, You have to address the issue from the start. And I tell people it's very dangerous to play victimhood. And when you teach critical race theory, when you tell that little black kid from growing ever since he's growing up from day one that you're never gonna make it because you're oppressed by white people, that kid is gonna think, well, I'm never gonna make it. Well, it makes him more racist, right? He's gonna say, you know what, I hate white people now. I'm gonna drop out of school. I'll just be a gangster, influencer, rapper. And makes that little white kid more racist as well. That white kid is gonna think I've done nothing wrong my whole life, and you're telling me, I'm the bad guy. I'm the colonizer. Everything that's going wrong around the world is because of me. Listen, do you know how many people died in China under Mao Zedong? Over 100 million. Look at how many people died under Joseph Stalin. I would say at least 30 million. In China, they don't tell you to hate your country. In Russia, they don't tell you to hate your country. They tell you you're proud to be Chinese, you're proud to be Russian. They tell you that we're the best country in the world. This is the best society in the world. That's what they tell you. They tell you to love your country, your history, and your culture. Yes, they do acknowledge the dark past. Believe it or not, in China, they do openly acknowledge that Mao Zedong has done some crazy things like the Cultural Revolution, which has put the country into a really, really dark place. But they don't tell you to hate your country. The West is the only place in the world where constantly telling our citizens that to continuously to hate our country. They tell us that we need a communist, socialist reform. If you really want that, go live in North Korea if you hate it here so bad. Go to Yemen, go to Somalia, go live in Haiti if you hate it here so bad. Stop hating on your country so much. America, Canada, the West, this is the best place in the world. Thank you guys so much for watching until the end. I will come back to this topic because woke culture and political correctness, it's extremely dangerous and detrimental to the growth of our society.